when somebody comes to us as a farmer, we want to make sure that they understand the complete process of what is going to happen to their biomass. It's not just a black box. If you're taking your material to a hemp extraction facility, make sure that they have some sort of quality system, some sort of tracking system, that when you bring your biomass to them, it's going to be weighed and tagged, and then that material will be tracked throughout their entire process so that there's some sort of record keeping there.
That's Jonathon John, lab manager at Choice Extraction, Inc. in Washington, Pennsylvania. This is the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. My name is Eric Herlock, and today I will talk to Jonathon John about getting your cannabinoid biomass processed and extracted. What kinds of questions should you be asking? What kinds of output can you expect from your biomass? And generally, what to look out for when shopping around for a processor. We also talk about Delta 8 and the DEA's involvement in the hemp industry. All that and more, but first, a word from our sponsor, Hemp, and then a few nuggets of hemp news.
Hemp presents the Goodness of Hemp Industrial Hemp Show, where we take you behind the scenes and bring you right into the heart of the action as we follow along with our team and the others in the industry working hard to build an American supply chain for industrial hemp grain and fiber. Find us on YouTube, search Hemp, and go ahead and click subscribe so you can make sure to catch all of the action. New episodes on Thursdays. Join us this week as we head into the field, assess conditions, and ride along as the first 2021 hemp grain acres are planted in Montana.
All right, some nuggets of hemp news for May 12th, 2021. Here's something interesting from newfrontierdata.com. They've got a U.S. hemp market landscape report that covers cannabinoids, grain, and fiber. It's a free download on their website. Here's a couple of key findings that are pretty interesting. It says for cannabinoids, the total U.S. consumer spending on CBD was estimated to have reached $3.8 billion in 2020 and is projected to reach $6.26 billion by 2025, a 5-year compound annual growth rate of 12.16%. On the grain side of things, the U.S. is the largest consumer of hemp seed used primarily for human consumption. Retail sales for hemp food products are estimated to have reached $67.1 million in 2020 and is projected to reach $144.1 million by 2025. That is a 5-year compound annual growth rate of 16.5%. And then on the fiber side, with more than 25,000 potential uses, hemp fiber is considered one of the world's most versatile crops. The wholesale market for processed hemp fiber reached $47.1 million in 2020 and is estimated to reach $82.2 million by 2025. That is a 10.53% 5-year compound annual growth rate. So that's some good news there coming in from New Frontier Data. You can go get the whole report at their website, newfrontierdata.com. Here's one coming out of Minnesota. This is on WNAX.com. It's Radio 570 in Minnesota. It says that the U.S. Department of Agriculture has approved the state of Minnesota's revived hemp production plan. State Ag Commissioner Tom Peterson says they've already approved licenses for 450 growers to plant the crop. He says one of the revisions provides a better testing window for industrial hemp. He says other important revisions include random sampling based on risk factors and better remediation. So you check out the website at Minnesota Department of Agriculture for more information there. Here's a story from Zimbabwe. It's on allafrica.com. It says that Zimbabwe is set to become a regional hub for industrial hemp production as more farmers are receiving better results from their pilot projects. These developments are results of the approval of the production of industrial hemp and medicinal cannabis by President Mnangagwa in 2019. Current successes in pilot projects, which are pointing to increased production in the coming few years, dovetails with the Second Republic's plan to increase agriculture's contribution to gross domestic product from 12% to 20% by 2030. All right, Zimbabwe. Here's a story from Texas. This is in the Texas Tribune. It's written by Patrick Svitek. It says that the top political consultant to Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller was arrested Thursday on allegations that he participated in a scheme to solicit money in campaign contributions for state hemp licenses issued by Miller's Texas Department of Agriculture. The consultant, Todd Smith, ultimately took $55,000 as part of the scheme, an arrest warrant affidavit obtained by the Texas Tribune says. Smith and others involved in the scheme are alleged in the warrant to have solicited a total of $150,000 to guarantee a license, including a $25,000 upfront cost for a survey that they said was required to get a license in Texas. Some of the money would also go toward funding unnamed political campaigns, according to the affidavit. The affidavit alleges that Smith committed third-degree felony theft. All right, so this is crazy. So if you're paying $25,000 in Texas to get a hemp license, I think you've been scammed. Okay, I'm sorry this is happening to you folks down there, but I think the licenses are about $100. Here's a story from hempgrower.com. The headline says, the top 3 CBD-friendly states in the U.S. And really, not a lot of surprise here. Their top state is Colorado, the second is Oregon, but then the third is Vermont. It says that Vermont first passed legislation allowing the production of hemp in 2013. Following the passage of the Farm Bill, the state's Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets now regulates the cultivation, processing, and commerce of hemp and hemp-related products in the state. Like Colorado and Oregon, Vermont has not prohibited the use of CBD as an additive to foods or beverages, choosing instead to tax it. CBD labeling requirements, however, are somewhat stricter and more comprehensive than these states. So yeah, Vermont. That's great. Speaking of Vermont, this is a nice segue. I don't know if this is news, but I was scrolling through the Facebook the other day, and I follow High Mowing Organic Seeds on the Facebook because I am a gardener and I love their seeds and I've been using them for years. And I saw they had a post about a hemp mix cover crop. It's a 3-way blend ground cover for undersowing into hemp crops. It's got annual rye, medium red clover, and dwarf white clover. They're blended to create a dense undercover that can be mowed or trimmed throughout the growing season. So that's cool. Yeah, High Mowing. All right, here is a story from Alaska Native News. It says that Alaska Senate passes bill allowing for permanent industrial hemp program. Senate Bill 27, a bill allowing for more business opportunities for industrial hemp, was unanimously passed by the Alaska State Senate. SB 27 would allow for the state to maintain a permanent industrial hemp program and allow for more broad interstate commerce of Alaska-grown and manufactured hemp products. Okay. All right, and one more. This is at hempgrower.com, and the headline reads, USDA using hemp oil to make cosmeceuticals. I'm not even going to read the story. I think the news here is the word cosmeceutical. I'll have links to all of these stories and more on the show page for this episode at lancasterfarming.com. All right, let's get on with our interview for today. We will be talking to Jonathon John. He's a lab manager over at Choice Extraction, Inc. out in Washington, Pennsylvania. Here we go. Jonathon John from Choice Extraction, Inc. Welcome to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm very good. How are you?
Doing all right. Yeah, thanks for joining me. So it's been a while since we've had someone on the show who does extractions. So okay. Tell me a bit about what Choice Extraction, Inc. is, and how did you get involved in the hemp industry?
Absolutely. So Choice Extraction, Inc. has been around since 2019. We're an extractor in Western Pennsylvania. We also have a farm in Tionesta, Pennsylvania. So what we do is we bring in hemp from our farms and local farmers, and we extract that through a process of supercritical CO2. And we'll take that extracted material and we'll refine it all the way up until final products that consumers can then use.
Okay. And so who are your main customers? Other farmers or people who are looking to get, extractions for their own products?
So we have a mix of a few different types of customers. Our main customer would be a farmer that comes to us for extraction services and refinement for that their hemp to final product. We
Mm-hmm.
also have a brand in which we sell to retail locations, and we also offer white labeling services for somebody that's looking to start their own brand.
Okay. Tell me sort of how like the typical farmer relationship goes. What could a farmer expect, customer service wise from you, and sort of like output and turnaround time and that sort of thing?
Sure. So a farmer would come to us and they would explain that they have a certain amount of biomass and what they're looking to um, turn that biomass into, whether it's crude oil, whether it's a refined distillate oil, or whether it's a final product. So we'll lay out a plan for them as far as the steps that they want to take it and how to best achieve those. And then we will develop that plan, pick some of those products. And then we will work with them to bring in their biomass in a suitable form. So a lot of times farmers are a little unfamiliar with how we need to accept that biomass. We'll work with them to get it up into our doors so that it's in an acceptable form. Everything in our facility is then weighed and tracked from start to finish in the facility. They kind of call it a seed to sale system. So we operate on that level of quality. And that's basically how it works. We'll operate on a contract per pound. So, depending on how many pounds of biomass and how many quantities of end product that a farmer is looking for, we'll develop a sort of a project proposal for them.
Okay. Do you have a minimum?
Yes, we do typically want to run about 200 pounds minimum. Our machine, our supercritical CO2 extractor, can handle 100 to 150 pounds of biomass per day. We usually like to run for 2 days, and then we clean after in between each lot. So that gives us enough material to work with for that time period.
Okay. You mentioned that you have to work with the farmers to get the material in a form that's acceptable for you. Can you talk about that? Like, how do you want the biomass coming in?
So we don't want just a plant that's been cut and wet hanging there. So what we like is shucked, bucked, and dried. So that means the material has been removed from the stalk or the stem, and then that biomass has then been dried to less than 15% moisture. We do have some capability to handle it around that 15%. So if it comes in and it's just a little high, we can dry it out in our facility, but we do like it to be about 15% and free of foreign matter. So that means, no other plants in there, no other contaminants, stuff from the farm that might fall in there. So if they could do a good job of cleaning that up, really it's to their benefit, because at the end of the day, that's their biomass. So if you have quality going in, you're going to get a quality product coming out.
Right, right. What do you do with the waste material?
So we have a lot of different waste streams that we do generate here. The first would be when the material comes to us, we will grind it. And during that grinding process, we remove about 10 to 15% of the actual weight just due to the grinding. So that's the stems that don't pass through our screen. That could be foreign matter. That could be seeds. So that, that's just regular municipal waste. The farmer can return that. There could be some benefit there as far as fiber. If they want to take that stem and grind it up further and process that, we can return that to them. We also have post-extraction. So when the material is put through the machine and we remove all the cannabinoids and beneficial compounds from it, it's sort of like a dust at that point. And again, that's a municipal waste. So no non-hazardous or anything like that can be thrown right in the trash, but we do return that to some farmers who look to incorporate that as far as in their soil, or we've had some people experiment with that as far as like organic stuff like that.
Right, you could compost it.
Yeah, you could compost it. You're not supposed to feed it to animals, but maybe in the future that could be something that they would like.
Right, hopefully. Tell me a bit about your own brand. Is that under the same name as Choice Extraction?
So that would be under our brand name, Choice CBD. And
I'm sorry, you cut out there. Choice CBD?
CBD, yes, choice CBD, correct. Um, and we have our full suite of products that we offer as far as tinctures and topicals and things of that nature. And we just sell it kind of locally. We don't do any online sales. So it's just kind of a way for our business to stay afloat.
Mm-hmm.
We started working initially, and our goal was to convert biomass into oil for a fee. Due to the glut in the industry, there's just been so much oil that isn't really economically stable for us. So we've shifted gears to the final phase of our company, which is the formulation development, and since then have rolled out a brand to kind of keep the company afloat.
Okay. Tell me about the farm up there in Tyanesta. How many acres is that? What are you growing? What's it like up there?
So that farm, the project on the farm was back in 2019. They did 15 acres on the farm, and that was a Boax, BOAX strain. Very beautiful biomass, some of the best I've seen in Pennsylvania and in the surrounding area. We still have a lot of that biomass. We have about 3,000 pounds of that biomass. And we have enough oil to last for another 1 to 2 years from the material we've already extracted from there. So the farm has since kind of ceased operations for biomass growing, but in 2021 we're looking to start more of a smokable flower, which is smaller scale, higher quality.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, and you started in 2019. So in 2019, things looked like really amazing, right? Like everybody was jumping in.
Yep.
At what point did you realize that, like, we're sort of overextended here in this end of the industry?
Probably harvest 2019, when you saw those numbers just kept going up and up and up as far as the sheer amount of biomass that was available. That's probably when it first, at the end of 2019 is when I first saw that.
Since then, have you seen sort of like less interest in, from farmers in getting their material processed, or, what's that been like?
It's definitely has slowed down. I think the farmers that are coming to us are the ones that are very dedicated to hemp and cannabis. They really have a passion for it and growing it. They understand a little bit more about the industry, not necessarily just brand spanking newcomers. They kind of have an idea of what it takes to get it from start to finish. Mm-hmm. And those are the companies that are successful at this point.
Right. So what should farmers or, hemp business people be looking for when they're looking for an extraction company?
Well, they want to look for transparency. When somebody comes to us as a farmer, we want to make sure that they understand the complete process of what is going to happen to their biomass. It's not just a black box. So you want to definitely, if you're taking your material to a hemp extraction facility, make sure that they have some sort of quality system, some sort of tracking system, that when you bring your biomass to them, it's going to be weighed and tagged, and then that material will be tracked throughout their entire process, so that there's some sort of record keeping there.
Okay. Anything else a farmer should be thinking about when they're, sort of shopping around for extraction, besides like the transparency? Are there like, is there a question that they will ask you and you're like, oh, that's a good question?
How much should I get from it? Right. That's a pretty good question. It's a generic question, but you should have some understanding of what you should expect, which is usually about 10% of your weight in return of the oil. So how much should I get? What is the quality of what I'm going to get? Do you have testing as far as internal testing capabilities, and what's your external testing plan? Do you screen for things such as pesticides, heavy metals, things like that? And then,
you do screen for all that stuff, yeah?
We do, yes. We do check for those things, which is not a requirement because it's unregulated, but that's kind of how we operate, which is on a quality level. And you should also, look at what can they offer you. Are they just going to take it one step, or are they going to take it all the way to the final step so that you can actually maybe get something, you can get a return on your investment?
Okay. Getting back to the input versus output. So if I come in with 200 pounds of biomass, I should expect to get 20 pounds of oil?
Correct. Yes. And that's
Okay.
going to be dependent on the quality of your biomass again. So percentages and potencies going in, and then how clean is your biomass. If you give 200 pounds of biomass and 50% of it is stems, well, you might only get 50%.
Yeah, right.
You would expect.
So the DEA kind of has their hands in this, or at least they want to, right? And there's some talk about the work in progress hemp and what all labs are supposed to be registered with the DEA by 2022, I think.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that? How much of a pain in the ass is that going to be? Do you think we're actually going to see the DEA get involved, or are we going to get the DEA out of the hemp industry?
I think that the DEA has a lot of other things to worry about than the hemp industry, because when you look at end consumers, the people that are purchasing the product, they want it. This isn't causing issues in people's homes. This isn't causing drug addiction and things like that the DEA should focus on. Drugs coming in from other countries or even originating in America. Hemp is it's a beneficial plant, and yes, they want to regulate it because tetrahydrocannabinol in the Delta 9 form is a Schedule 1 substance, and I think going forward, hopefully we see some political changes where we can loosen those restrictions and get more research done, because ultimately that's going to what grows the industry. We need less restriction, more regulation, more direction. So we don't want to hinder the growth that we have by slapping all these regulations that may not make sense and are just being put in place because of political, the law, right? So we want to loosen those laws up a little bit, but we also want to make sure that the industry is regulated. I don't think that the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration, is the one who needs to do that regulation. So that's my take on it. I think that labs going forward, you should always use an accredited lab. I don't think that they necessarily, the way the law is written, they specify it has to be DEA certified. And that is due to the fact that that is a Schedule 1 substance. So whenever that lab tests, if that lab testing determines that it is in fact over the percentage, well, they now have to handle marijuana, and the laws for handling marijuana, the way that you store that, the person who has access to those samples, it changes once it becomes marijuana. So if we change the law, or it's no longer registered, then the person handling that at that analytical lab no longer has to be in a DEA registrant, because they're not handling a drug. But you always want to search any test result. You want to make sure they're ISO certified. ISO 17025 is an analytical accreditation for the laboratory that you're sending it to. So that makes sure that lab is being audited, and they are up to speed with all the necessary quality things that they need in place to make sure that their testing is accurate and reproducible.
Okay.
So that's my take on the DEA and laboratories.
All right. What's your take on Delta 8? And does your company offer those services to extract Delta 8?
So, yes, my take on Delta 8 is that it is a very beneficial and therapeutic cannabinoid that fits into place with, all the other beneficial and therapeutic cannabinoids such as CBD and CBN. So it has its place. It does interact with your body's endocannabinoid system slightly differently than Delta 9 THC, which is why it has a place in the array of cannabinoids. Each one of them is kind of special in their own way. We do offer that, and it's our best, one of our best sellers.
I bet.
For sure. And we get everybody in between the demographic. What I like to say is cannabis is for everyone. It really is. It's for your mother. It's for your grandmother. It's for school teachers. It's for literally anybody. I can think of a ton of uses that they can benefit from it. So, it's very, what's the word? It's Delta 8. It's great. I don't know.
Well, there's sort of a lot of consternation on the parts of some of the national hemp advocacy groups who are really concerned about like the hemp brand that they've been
Yes.
promoting for years now is like, hey, this is hemp. It's not going to get you high. And then
Right.
along comes Delta 8 and they're like, oh, wait, hemp's going to get you high. And it seems like it just like it's
Yeah.
seems like it's heading for a problem. I don't know. Are
Sure.
you concerned about where it's headed?
I think that when we look at the legitimacy of the hemp industry, and like you said, we're selling products and we say they don't get you high. Um, but the reason we're selling them is not because they got you high or didn't get you high, it's because you were receiving value from them, benefit, such as reduction in pain or just general improvement in your everyday life. So the way it was spun was, yes, this is hemp. We're not going to get you high, and so it won over a lot of consumers because there are consumers that do not want to get high. For those consumers, I can say that CBD still exists and the benefits of that are still there. I think that as we grow as a society and bring cannabis more into our everyday lives, that stigma, which is the issue, is the stigma associated with getting high or using cannabis that has some sort of a psychotropic effect on you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that the stigma is the issue. It's not necessarily the act or the compound, right? So going forward, what needs to be done is education, patient and consumer education, that we can still have all those things and they could still be a benefit in all parts of society, whether it's industrial hemp, whether it's improving consumers' everyday life.
Hmm. Right, I hear that. I personally, I have no issue with Delta 8 as a thing. Like I get it. I'm all for, complete cannabis legalization across the board. But from where I sit as a hemp journalist, I do think it is a little dangerous to have, because the hemp industry has done all of this work to sort of separate itself from the THC side of things, and
Right.
now to sort of like it's this weird era. And I hear what you're saying, that like it's a therapeutic thing. It's got many benefits. But I was up at the cannabis festival in Berks County a couple of weeks ago, and they're just like waving all of these Delta 8 buds around, and they're not saying, "Hey, come check out this medicine." They're like basically flaunting that this is kind of like a backdoor into legally selling buds. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I mean, there's definitely business is business, and the goal of businesses is to make money. And
Sure.
right now, that's the hot ticket. So
Yeah.
people are going to
Yeah.
hop on that. I think that going forward, there's multiple uses of hemp, and we've had this conversation a
Mm-hmm.
few times. Is that the focus on building materials and alternative uses for hemp is still there. It's just it needs more attention, right? So when we go to those events, we need to make sure that those are being brought to the spotlight, that they're being spotlighted. And people will gravitate to that. Right now, they're gravitating to the next best thing because that's what's out and that's what's hot. But give it a few more years, and all these consumers, once this craze dies down, they're going to be looking for the next best thing. How can I introduce hemp in other aspects of my life? How can I
Mm-hmm.
wear the clothing? How can I use it for constructing my house, or how municipalities and things like that? So bigger players have to step into the hemp industry. People that build houses, people that aren't looking for a consumer end product. And right now, the focus is on consumer end products because that's what the spotlight is. But as the industry grows, smart people, engineers, will start to dabble in hemp and start to develop these materials more and more and more. And if we can grow it in America, and if the price is right, then those interests from those businesses will be greater because they will see a return
Right.
on their investment. If we put money in up front to develop these technologies, a few years down the road, this is going to be worth millions of dollars. So right now, it's kind of how we're seeing it. How are we looking at it, right?
Right. Yeah, I agree. We need to put a lot more focus on the fiber and grain side of things. And it's like, how do you get, regular consumers to be like, yes, I need all of my packaging material to be made out of plants and all my plastic need to be made out of plants. How do we get that shift in consumer demand? I think that's going to be the ticket to sort of unlocking, hemp as the future regenerative, raw ingredient for our lives.
Right. And I think that cannabis consumers, they are savvy as far as what they put in their bodies and the packaging that material comes in. One of the biggest complaints I hear from cannabis packaging is, there's too much packaging and it's wasteful. And so when a consumer looks for an end product, they actually do look for products that come with recyclable packaging, that's sustainable, that has less packaging. So they are conscious in that, and I think that hemp consumers already are a little conscious of their health and the environment because they're looking for alternatives.
Right.
And part of that is living a regenerative, recyclable lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, outside of cannabis products, I mean, I think everything we get has too much packaging. Like you go and you get like a package of, snap peas and they're wrapped in plastic. And it's just like, do we really need all of that? Or does that stuff need to be, petroleum-based plastic? Aren't there other ways? So I want to find a way to reach like the non-cannabis people and get them interested in these other ways of doing things.
Yeah.
So
material, the hemp,
But I'm an optimist. I'm a simpleton. I just think it should be a whole lot easier than it is. But what else? Should I ask you about with choice extraction? What should people know about your business?
Well, that's a good question. What should they know about choice?
Oh, here's a question. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Do you? A few years ago, there was like a lot of talk about toll processing. Do you do that?
So, first of all, so defining in the hemp industry, there's a lot of words that need defined. So, tolling is service for fee, right? So we do toll processing, and that is when a farmer brings it to us and pays a fee for processing. A split is when that farmer brings us their material and they would like to negotiate some sort of division on a percentage of the oil.
Okay.
Right.
Do you do that as well?
We do not. No. Because the oil is not very valuable in its raw form currently.
Okay, and imagine there's like quality control things there too. You want to make sure that the stuff that you're getting is of a certain quality and you're not just going to take anything coming in off the street, right?
Right. So on a split, if we were to operate on a split, there would be requirements for the biomass to meet certain markers as far as percentage and, quality overall.
Okay. From like a customer service point of view, like has there ever been like a mix up where like you return, some oil to a person, they're like, wait, that's not mine. What does that ever happen?
No, because we use a quality management system. And what that means is whenever the material comes into us, the bag gets tagged, and then that marker is tracked throughout the facility, and everything is labeled very meticulously in the lab. Cool. Nothing leaves the presence of a technician's area without having a label on, because you can imagine we're making CBD products and we're making Delta 8 products, and they're almost indistinguishable from each other sometimes. So everything needs to be very meticulously labeled and kept track of. And so we've never mixed up a jar or anything like that.
Okay. Tell me about your lab. You're in Washington, Pennsylvania. Do you have a lot of employees? What's it like there?
So there are currently 4 employees at Choice Extraction. Me, the lab manager. I have 2 technicians. And then I also, there's the owner, Bob Shear.
Okay.
And those are the 4 individuals that make up our company.
Nice. Do you have a background in chemistry?
I do have a background in chemistry. I graduated from California University of Pennsylvania in 2012, and I worked for PPG for 2 years in their research lab in Monroeville. And I also worked for a company in the steel industry called Vesuvius. They work on refractories.
Okay. Are you able to do extractions on other plant materials? Like, are you locked into cannabis? Like, or can you do extractions for other biomass?
We could extract a variety of different materials. The CO2 extractor, the reason it was first introduced into hemp is because it's very good for extracting botanicals such as lavender and things like that. So CO2 extraction has been along for quite some time, and we can certainly extract a variety of compounds from different plants with that process.
But do you?
No. We are laser focused on what we do, and that's hemp and cannabis.
Okay. Cool. About the future, what are you looking forward to this year, or 5 years from now, sort of in the hemp industry?
In the hemp industry, what I am looking for the overall industry is, like I was saying, less restriction and more regulation. So weeding out some of these players, some companies that aren't necessarily being above board with how they operate. And then to grow, as I said, the other sectors of the hemp industry, not the ones that are necessarily being spotlighted today, but that's in your grain and your fiber, in your building materials. So that is where the future of the hemp industry lies.
Right. Cool. Well, Jonathan, where can people go to learn more about Choice Extraction Inc.?
Well, they can check us out online at www.choiceextractioninc.com. And they can also follow us on Instagram at Choice Extraction Inc. They can reach out to us directly, and we always love educating patients and consumers about hemp and our process.
All right, cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been great to talk to you and hear about your business.
Yeah, absolutely, Eric. Thank you so much for having me today.
All right, that does it for today's show. Thank you very much for listening. Be sure to go to lancasterfarming.com and check out those news nugget links. And make sure you go to the IND Hemp YouTube channel for some cool videos on fiber and grain production out in Montana. It's a whole different thing than what we're doing here in Pennsylvania. So, all right, my name is Eric Herlock. I am the digital editor at Lancaster Farming Newspaper, the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world. Keep in mind that I will be touring the country this summer. And if you would like to get involved in that tour in some way, please drop me a line, send me an email at podcast@lancasterfarming.com, or call me at 717-721-4462. I'll tell you all about it. Maybe we can stop by your farm. Maybe you're having a hemp event. I would like to hear from you, so please get in touch. All right, until next time, I will see you in the newspaper. Episode 132 of the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast is copyright 2021 by Lancaster Farming Newspaper, which is part of the Steinman Communications family. Today's show was written, recorded, edited, and produced by Eric Herlock. The music you hear throughout the show is courtesy of Tin Bird Shadow, except today we had a little bit of royalty-free music in the sponsorship message.
industrial hemp.